Chapter 1. Foundations. Austin Stokes had built his life on patterns, reading them, predicting them, exploiting them. At 34, he ran Meridian Strategies, a boutique consulting firm that specialized in competitive intelligence and market disruption. Corporations paid him 6 figures to dismantle their rivals' strategies before they could execute them. He was a chess player who saw 20 moves ahead, and he never lost. But none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was Elena, his wife of 2 years, 7 months pregnant with their daughter. She stood in their kitchen that Tuesday morning, her dark hair catching the sunlight through the window, one hand resting on her belly as she laughed at something on her phone. "Austin, come look at this," she called, her voice warm. "Your daughter is apparently the size of a butternut squash this week." He walked over, wrapping his arms around her from behind, feeling the baby kick against his palms. "She's going to be a soccer player. Or she's just tired of being compared to produce." Elena leaned back against him, and he felt the contentment radiating from her. This woman, who'd been so damaged when they met 3 years ago, had bloomed into something radiant. They'd met at a charity gala for domestic violence survivors. Elena had been volunteering, telling her story to raise awareness. Austin had been there representing his firm's pro bono work. He'd been captivated immediately, not by her beauty, though she was stunning, but by her strength. She'd survived something that would have destroyed most people. Her first marriage had been a nightmare. Clifton Velez, a successful real estate developer, had seemed charming at first. By month 3, the mask slipped. By year 2, Elena was planning her escape. The divorce had been finalized 4 years ago, but Clifton had never truly let go. Restraining orders, therapy, a complete cross-country move from Boston to Seattle, Elena had done everything right. "I need to stop by the office this morning," Austin said, kissing her temple. "Wrapping up the Donovan contract. Should be home by 2. "I have my appointment at 3, Elena reminded him. "The final ultrasound before—" Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and Austin felt her body tense. "What is it?" "Nothing." She turned the phone face down too quickly. "Just a spam call." Austin had learned not to push. Elena would tell him when she was ready, but he memorized the way her breathing had changed, the micro-expression of fear that had flashed across her face. Patterns. Always patterns. "I'll be home in time to go with you," he promised. After breakfast, as Elena gathered her things for her own work, she was an art therapist at a community center, Austin checked the home security app on his phone. Everything normal. He'd installed a state-of-the-art system 6 months ago, not because of any specific threat, but because it was who he was. Prepared, careful, strategic. He kissed her goodbye at the door, watching as she drove away in her silver Volvo. Safe car, safe route, safe life. He had no idea it would be the last time he'd see her alive. At Meridian Strategies, Austin's team was already assembled in the conference room. There were 4 of them, his core group, people he'd worked with for years, people who shared his particular skill set for systematic dismantling. Walton Harrison, his second-in-command, was a former data analyst who could hack into anything with a keyboard, 42, methodical, loyal to a fault. Stacy Bowers, their psychological operations specialist, had a PhD in behavioral science and a talent for manipulation that bordered on art. She could make anyone believe anything. Norman Caldwell, their logistics coordinator, had spent 15 years in procurement for military contractors. If you needed something, anything, Norman could get it within 48 hours. And Jeremiah Connor, their legal counsel, a lawyer who specialized in the gray areas where law met morality. They were discussing the Donovan contract. A pharmaceutical company wanted to know why their competitors' drug trials were succeeding where theirs had failed. Austin had found the answer. Creative data interpretation that bordered on fraud. Now they were deciding how to present the findings. "We give them just enough to be dangerous," Austin was saying, "but not enough to be illegal. They'll know exactly where to look, but they'll have to—" His phone rang. Unknown number. He usually didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Mr. Stokes?" A professional voice. Female. Tense. This is Officer Ginger Dickerson with Seattle Memorial Hospital Security. Your wife was brought to the emergency room approximately 15 minutes ago. There's been an incident." The world tilted. What kind of incident? She was found at the bottom of the stairwell in the north parking garage at the Pacific Heights Medical Center. A witness says someone pushed her. She's pregnant and... The officer's voice cracked slightly. "Sir, you need to come now. She's being taken into emergency surgery." Austin was moving before he consciously decided to. Walton was already grabbing his keys, reading Austin's body language. The others fell silent, recognizing crisis mode. "What happened?" Walton asked, as they raced to the parking garage. "Elena? Hospital. Someone pushed her." Each word felt like glass in his throat. The drive took 12 minutes. Austin counted every second. Chapter 2. The Monster's Face. Seattle Memorial's emergency entrance was chaos. Austin ran past the check-in, badge flashing from the officer who'd called him. They directed him to the surgical wing, where a nurse, older, kind eyes, stopped him outside the OR. "Mr. Stokes, I'm Nurse Virginia Mosley. Your wife is in surgery. The fall caused significant trauma. We're trying to save—" She paused, and Austin saw the answer in her eyes. "We're trying to save her." "The baby?" "I'm sorry. The impact was too severe." Austin felt something inside him go cold and dark. Not the heat of rage. That would come later. This was calculation, the same mechanism that made him successful in his work. Emotion compartmentalized, mind sharpening to a razor's edge. "Who found her?" "A pediatric nurse. She was getting to her car and heard—" Virginia hesitated. "She heard your wife screaming for help. By the time she got there, your wife was at the bottom of the stairs. She said a man was walking away. She didn't get a good look." "Where is this nurse?" "Being interviewed by the police." Officer Dickerson appeared then, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes. "Mr. Stokes, I need to ask you some questions. When did you last see your wife?" Austin's mind raced through the timeline, giving precise answers. Where he'd been, his alibi, the firm, witnesses. He provided everything efficiently, a part of his brain noting that she wasn't treating him as a suspect, not yet. "Your wife regained consciousness briefly," Officer Dickerson said carefully. "Before they took her into surgery, she told the paramedics and nurses something important." She paused. "She said it was her first husband, Clifton Velez. She said he found her." The name hit Austin like a physical blow. Clifton, the ghost Elena had been running from for 4 years. "We're looking for him now," Dickerson continued. "Does your wife have any recent communication with him? Emails, calls, texts?" Austin thought of Elena's phone that morning. The tension. The spam call that wasn't spam. "I don't know, but I can check." They brought him Elena's belongings, her purse, her phone, with a cracked screen. Austin unlocked it with her passcode. 17 missed calls over the past 3 days from a blocked number. 5 voicemails. He played the first one, putting it on speaker. "Elena, baby, you need to stop ignoring me." Clifton's voice was smooth, practiced. "We need to talk about this situation. You know you're making a mistake. Call me back." The second, "I saw your Instagram. You're pregnant? With that nobody's kid? After everything we had? We need to discuss this face to face." The third, "Stop playing games. You think you can just replace me? Replace what we had? I made you. You were nothing before me." The fourth, "I'm in Seattle. We're going to have a conversation whether you like it or not." The fifth, from this morning, "I know where you'll be this afternoon. We're going to talk, Elena, one way or another." Officer Dickerson's expression hardened. "We need to find this man, now." But Austin was already 3 steps ahead. He opened Elena's laptop remotely. He'd set up cloud access to all their devices as part of his security protocols. Her recent searches told a story. Restraining order violation, stalker laws, Washington State, how to disappear completely. She'd known Clifton was coming, and she'd been trying to handle it alone, trying to protect Austin from the monster she'd escaped. A doctor emerged from the OR, still in scrubs, mask pulled down. Her face told Austin everything. "Mr. Stokes, I'm Dr. Margarita Hebert. We did everything we could. The internal injuries were too extensive. The impact of the fall caused massive trauma to her abdomen and spine. We lost her 12 minutes ago. I'm so sorry. The cold calculation in Austin's mind crystallized into something diamond hard and unbreakable. I need to see her. They let him into the recovery room. Elena lay there, peaceful now, the monitors silent. Austin took her hand, still warm, and leaned close. I promise you, he whispered, I promise you, Elena, he will pay for this. Not jail, not justice. I'm going to destroy him the way he destroyed you. I'm going to make him wish he'd never been born. Officer Dickerson appeared in the doorway. Mr. Stokes, we have an address. Clifton Velas checked into the Riverside Hotel yesterday, under his own name. We're sending units now. Austin stood. I'm coming with you. Sir, that's not... I'm coming with you, he repeated, his voice leaving no room for argument. That's my wife he murdered. I need to see his face. Something in Austin's tone made the officer nod. Chapter 3. The Hunt Begins. The Riverside Hotel was a mid-range business establishment near the airport. Police units had already surrounded the building when Austin arrived with Officer Dickerson. He stayed in the lobby as they went to Clifton's room, 417. They knocked. No answer. They used the key card from the front desk manager. The room was empty. Clothes were strewn about. A laptop sat open on the desk. But Clifton Velas was gone. Austin walked in behind them, his eyes scanning everything. This was what he did. He read environments, found patterns, and Clifton had left patterns everywhere. On the laptop screen, a Google Maps route from the hotel to Pacific Heights Medical Center, screenshots of Elena's social media posts, printed photos of her and Austin together, some of them recent, taken with a telephoto lens from a distance. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was premeditated stalking. He's been following her for weeks, Austin said quietly. Maybe months. Officer Dickerson was on her phone, issuing an APB. All airports, train stations, bus terminals, and we'll need to... He's not running, Austin interrupted. Both the officer and detective turned to look at him. Look at this, he pointed to the laptop. He's still logged into his email. His phone charger is here. Wallet's gone, but his car keys are on the nightstand. He left in a hurry, but he's planning to come back. How can you be sure? Because he doesn't think he did anything wrong. Austin had profiled hundreds of competitors, understood the psychology of different personality types. He's a narcissist. In his mind, Elena provoked him. She made him do this by refusing to acknowledge what he thinks they still have. He'll have rationalized it already. He probably thinks if he just explains it to her, or to me, we'll understand. Officer Dickerson frowned. You think he'll try to make contact? I guarantee it. Austin gave them his card, his personal cell number circled. When he reaches out, and he will, I want to know immediately. Back in his car, Austin sat in silence for 3 minutes. Then he made a call. Walton, I need the team, my place, tonight, all of them. Already on our way, boss, whatever you need. Austin drove home on autopilot. The house felt wrong without Elena in it. Her coffee mug from this morning was still in the sink. Her prenatal vitamins on the counter. The nursery they'd been setting up, soft yellow walls, a crib that Austin had assembled himself 3 weeks ago. He walked in and closed the door, sat in the rocking chair they'd picked out together, and for exactly 5 minutes he let himself feel everything, the grief, the rage, the emptiness. Then he stood up, closed the nursery door, and went to his home office. His team arrived at 7 p.m. They'd brought food, but nobody was eating. They sat around Austin's dining room table, the same table where he and Elena had shared breakfast this morning, and waited. Austin laid it out methodically. Elena was murdered today by her ex-husband, Clifton Velas. The police are looking for him. They'll probably catch him. He'll probably go to trial. He might even be convicted. He paused, looking at each of them. That's not enough. Walton spoke first. What do you need? Everything. I need to know everything about Clifton Velas, his business, his assets, his secrets, his weaknesses, every person he's ever hurt, every crime he's ever committed, every lie he's ever told. I need to understand him better than he understands himself. Stacy leaned forward. And then? And then I'm going to take everything from him, his reputation, his wealth, his freedom, his sanity, everything he values, I'm going to systematically dismantle. And when he's broken, when he's lost everything, I want him to know exactly why it happened. I want him to see Elena's face in his nightmares every night for the rest of his miserable life. Jeremiah, the lawyer, cleared his throat. Austin, I have to say this. What you're describing could be illegal, unethical, dangerous. Austin's voice was cold. I don't care. Elena is dead. Our daughter is dead. That man took everything from me. I'm going to return the favor, and I'm going to enjoy every second of it. Normand pulled out his laptop. Where do we start? Clifton Velez, 41 years old, real estate developer based in Boston, divorced Elena 4 years ago. The divorce was messy. She had to fight for every penny. He contested it, tried to claim she was mentally unstable. She finally settled for less than she deserved, just to get away from him. Walton was already typing. Give me 30 minutes. I'll have his entire digital footprint. Stacy, I need a psychological profile. What makes him tick? What does he fear? On it. Normand, financial records, every bank account, every asset, every debt, legal and otherwise. Done. Jeremiah, I need to know what I can do without ending up in prison myself, but don't hold back. I'm willing to take risks. The lawyer nodded grimly. Understood. They worked through the night. By dawn, Austin had a picture of Clifton Velez that made his blood boil and gave him ammunition. Chapter 4. The Devil's Portrait. Walton had outdone himself. By 6 a.m. they had 15 years of Clifton Velez's life spread across 3 monitors in Austin's office. He's a predator, Walton said, his voice disgusted. Elena wasn't his first victim. I found 2 other women who took out restraining orders against him. One dropped hers after he settled with her. I'm guessing he paid her off. The other woman, Joyce Romero, disappeared from social media entirely 3 years ago. Just went dark. Austin made a note. Find her. I want to talk to her. Stacy had compiled a psychological profile that was chillingly accurate. Classic malignant narcissist with obsessive tendencies, he views women as possessions. Elena leaving him was the ultimate narcissistic injury. He's been nursing that wound for 4 years, building it up in his mind. He probably convinced himself they were meant to be together, that she'd realize her mistake and come back. When she got pregnant with my child, Austin said slowly, it broke his delusion. She wasn't coming back. She'd moved on completely. Exactly, and that's when he snapped. He couldn't accept that reality, so he eliminated it. Normand had hit financial gold. Clifton's rich, but he's not liquid. His wealth is tied up in properties, most of which are leveraged heavily. He owes about $40 million to various banks and investors. His credit is good, but it's a house of cards. One major problem and the whole thing collapses. What about offshore? Austin asked. Now that's interesting. Normand pulled up a different screen. He has an account in the Caymans, about $3 million. It's not hidden particularly well. I found it in 2 hours. My guess is he thinks it's his safety net. Austin felt the first stirrings of a plan forming. Can we access it? Normand grinned. With Walton's help? Give me a week. Jeremiah had the legal angles. Here's the situation. Clifton is going to be arrested, probably within 72 hours. The evidence is overwhelming. Security cameras at the parking garage caught him following Elena, multiple witnesses, her statement to the paramedics. But what? His family has money, old Boston money. His father, Sidney Velez, is connected, sits on boards, knows judges, has political influence. Clifton will get an expensive lawyer who'll argue diminished capacity, temporary insanity, maybe even that it was an accident. And Elena's statement was confused from trauma. With the right jury, the right judge, he could get manslaughter instead of murder. 8 to 15 years, out in 6 with good behavior. Austin's jaw clenched. Not acceptable. I know, so here's what I'm thinking. We don't interfere with the legal case, let it proceed. But while he's tied up in the justice system, we destroy everything else. His business, his reputation, his family's trust. By the time he's convicted, or even if he somehow beats this, he'll have nothing to come back to. And we make sure the truth comes out, Stacy added, about the other women, about who he really is. That old Boston family money? They care about reputation above all else. We make Clifton too toxic for them to support. Austin nodded slowly. I want to understand his empire first. Every building he owns, every investor he's screwed, every contractor he's stiffed, every secret he's buried. We're going to dig it all up and bury him with it. His phone rang. Officer Dickerson. Mr. Stokes, we found him. Clifton Velas was arrested an hour ago at his father's estate in Bellevue. He'd driven there directly after the incident. He's being processed now. I wanted you to know. Did he say anything? He requested his lawyer. But before that, he said something odd. He said, it was an accident. She wouldn't listen to reason. I just wanted to talk. Like he genuinely believes that. Austin closed his eyes. Stacy had been right. When's his arraignment? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. You have a right to be there as the victim's husband. I'll be there. After he hung up, Austin turned to his team. We have a timeline now. Once he's arraigned, he'll either make bail or be held. If his family posts bail, he's out in society. If not, he's locked up. Either way, we need to move fast. What's the priority? Walton asked. Austin thought for a moment. Joyce Romero, the woman who disappeared. I want to know what Clifton did to her. If there are other victims, other skeletons, that's leverage. Stacy, you work on that. Walton, I need access to his communications. Everything. Emails, texts, calls. There's got to be evidence of premeditation, maybe accomplices, maybe other crimes. And the financial angle? Normand asked. Start with the contractors. Real estate developers always have enemies, people they've screwed over. I want a list of every person with a grudge. We're going to give them ammunition and watch them attack. Over the next 24 hours, they barely slept. Stacy found Joyce Romero working under a different name in Portland. She'd changed her identity after Clifton had stalked her, broken into her home, and assaulted her. She'd never pressed charges because Clifton's lawyers had threatened her with defamation suits. The settlement she'd taken was her ticket to a new life. She'll talk, Stacy reported. She wants to testify if it helps put him away. She's been living in fear for 5 years. Walton had cracked Clifton's email and phone backups. You're going to want to see this? He pulled up a series of messages between Clifton and a private investigator named Mickey Quinn. The PI had been tracking Elena for 3 months, her routines, her appointments, her medical schedule. Clifton had paid him $50,000 to compile a complete dossier. The PI knew Elena was pregnant, Walton said grimly. Knew her schedule. Knew she'd be at that medical center yesterday for a routine checkup. Clifton planned this down to the minute. Do the police know? Not yet. Send it to them, anonymously. This makes it premeditated murder, not manslaughter. No plea deal, no reduced charges. Normand had found the contractors, 12 of them, owed a collective $7 million for work completed on Clifton's projects. He'd stiffed them all, using legal loopholes and delayed payments to avoid paying in full. Most of them have liens against his properties, Normand explained, but Clifton's been fighting them in court for years. They're running out of money for legal fees. We're going to fund them, Austin decided, anonymously. Give them the best lawyers money can buy. Every lien, every lawsuit, we make sure it sticks. We're going to strangle his cash flow. Chapter 5. The Arraignment. Austin sat in the courthouse gallery wearing a black suit, stone-faced. Officer Dickerson sat beside him along with a victim's advocate named Nadine Grant, who'd been assigned to his case. Clifton Velez was brought in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed. This was Austin's first in-person look at the man who'd murdered his wife. He was handsome in a polished, artificial way. Expensive haircut, good bone structure, the kind of symmetrical face that photographs well. But there was something off about his eyes. They were calculating, cold, even as he affected an expression of remorse for the judge. The prosecutor outlined the charges: second-degree murder, violation of a restraining order that had expired 2 years ago, but established a pattern: stalking. The bail recommendation, denied. Clifton's lawyer, a silver-haired man named Leonard Villegas, who looked like he charged $1,000 an hour, argued passionately for bail. His client was a respected businessman, no prior criminal record, Ties to the community, not a flight risk. The prosecutor countered with the PI's emails, the ones Walton had anonymously provided, evidence of premeditation, evidence of a months-long stalking campaign, a victim who'd lost her life and her unborn child. The judge, a stern woman named Autumn Norton, barely deliberated. Bail denied. The defendant will remain in custody pending trial. Next court date in 30 days for preliminary hearing. Clifton's face went white. He turned to his lawyer, then scanned the gallery. His eyes found Austin. For 3 seconds, they locked gazes. Austin saw recognition, then something like defiance. Even now, in handcuffs, facing murder charges, Clifton Velas thought he was the victim, thought he'd been justified. Austin smiled, a cold, predatory smile that made Clifton flinch. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Austin made a brief statement that Stacy had helped him write. Elena Stokes was a beautiful, compassionate woman who dedicated her life to helping others heal from trauma. She survived years of abuse, rebuilt her life with courage and grace, and was looking forward to becoming a mother. That was stolen from her by a man who refused to let her go. I will not rest until justice is served. Short, powerful, victim-focused, the kind of statement that would play well in the press and make Clifton even more unsympathetic. That evening, Stacy had news. The story's breaking nationally. Pregnant woman murdered by obsessive ex-husband. It's everywhere. And I made sure Joyce Romero's story got to the right journalist. Tomorrow there's going to be a feature in the Boston Globe about Clifton's pattern of abuse. Good, Austin said. What about the family? Sidney Velez issued a statement saying they're shocked and saddened and will cooperate fully with the investigation. Reading between the lines, they're distancing themselves. The Velez family has a reputation to protect. Clifton's becoming a liability. Normand reported financial progress. 5 of the contractors have filed new motions with upgraded legal representation. Clifton's properties are getting tied up in litigation. His investors are nervous. 3 have already started calling for him to liquidate assets to cover outstanding debts. With him in jail, nobody's managing the day-to-day operations. It's chaos. Walton had more emails. Clifton's been in contact with someone named Colin Mercado, an old college friend. Messages suggest Colin helped him find Elena in Seattle. He was Clifton's eyes on the ground here. Austin felt his anger spike. An accomplice? Not legally. He didn't know about the plan. But he gave Clifton information about Elena's routines, confirmed her address, that sort of thing. He thought he was helping a friend reconnect with an ex-wife. Find him. I want to know everything. Jeremiah arrived late to the meeting, looking grave. I heard from a source at the prosecutor's office. They're building a strong case, but they're worried about the jury. Clifton's lawyer is already planning to paint Elena as having been mentally unstable, to suggest she was irrational and that the confrontation escalated unexpectedly. Can they do that? They can try, and without Elena here to defend herself. He trailed off. Austin stood. Then we need witnesses who can speak to her character, her strength, and we need people who can speak to Clifton's pattern of abuse. Joyce Romero is one. Who else? I'll find them, Stacy promised. Over the next 3 weeks, Austin watched his plan unfold like a military campaign. Every day brought new revelations about Clifton Velas in the press. Former employees came forward with stories of verbal abuse and harassment. A former girlfriend filed a civil suit alleging assault. The contractor lawsuits gained momentum. Meanwhile, Austin attended every pre-trial hearing, every motion, every proceeding. He wanted Clifton to see him, to know that Austin wasn't going anywhere. At night, he worked with his team. They'd moved operations to a rented office space. Austin couldn't bear to work on this from the home he'd shared with Elena. Normand reported that Clifton's cash reserves were depleting rapidly. The legal fees alone are astronomical, and with the businesses tanking, there's no revenue. He's going to have to start liquidating properties soon. Make it harder, Austin instructed. Every time he tries to sell, we make sure potential buyers know about the liens, the lawsuits, the bad publicity. Tank the values. It was working. Clifton's empire was crumbling even as he sat in jail awaiting trial. Chapter 6. The breaking point. 7 weeks after Elena's death, Austin got the call he'd been waiting for. "Austin Stokes?" A voice he recognized from the PI's recordings. "My name is Colin Mercado. I think we need to talk." "About what?" "About Clifton Velez, about what I know, and about what he's planning." They met at a quiet cafe near Pike Place Market. Colin was 38, well-dressed, nervous. He ordered coffee he didn't drink. "I didn't know," he began. "I swear to God I didn't know what he was planning. He told me he wanted to reconnect with his ex-wife, try to make amends. I thought I was helping him get closure. You gave him her address, her routine, information he used to stalk and murder her." Colin flinched. I know that now. I've talked to the police. I've given them everything. But there's more, something they don't know yet." Austin leaned forward. "Clifton's father, Sidney, visited him in jail 2 weeks ago. I heard about it from Clifton's assistant. Sidney told Clifton that he's being cut off. No more family money, no support. The Velez name can't be associated with this scandal." "Good. But Clifton has a backup plan." Colin looked genuinely frightened. "He told his assistant before he was arrested, told her to execute it if anything happened to him. There's money hidden, not just the Cayman account, other assets, shell corporations, and more importantly, there are documents, records of his father's business dealings, illegal things, bribes, fraud, tax evasion. Clifton's had them for years as insurance against his father." Austin's mind raced. He's going to blackmail his father into supporting him. Exactly. And if Sidney doesn't comply, Clifton will leak everything and take the whole family down with him. He'd rather destroy everyone than face consequences alone. Where are these documents? That's why I'm here. Colin pulled out his phone. The assistant, Georgina Vasquez, she feels terrible about all of this. She gave me access codes. The documents are in a safety deposit box at First National Bank in Boston, box 1847. But you'd need his signature or a court order to access it. Austin smiled. Or I'd need someone who could make it look like I had authorization. He called Walton. "I need you to create a court order. Make it look legitimate enough to fool a bank employee. I'll send you the details." "That's highly illegal," Walton pointed out. "I know. Are you in?" "Of course." 2 days later, armed with Walton's forgery and Norman's flawless fake credentials, Austin walked into First National Bank in Boston with Jeremiah beside him. They presented themselves as attorneys with a court order to secure evidence in a criminal trial. The bank manager was skeptical but cooperative. They retrieved box 1847. Inside were 3 flash drives, file folders full of documents, and photographs. Austin took everything, signed for it, and left. That night, in a Boston hotel room, they reviewed the contents. It was a gold mine. 15 years of Sidney Velez's illegal activities, bribes to city officials, tax fraud, money laundering through real estate deals, documents implicating a dozen other wealthy families in Boston. "This is nuclear," Jeremiah said. "If this gets out, Sidney Velez goes to prison. His business empire collapses. The whole Boston elite social structure gets a shakeup." "Good," Austin said. "But if we use this, we're committing multiple felonies. Evidence tampering, theft, forgery." Austin looked at his lawyer. "Jeremiah, you've been with me through everything. I need to know you're still in, because I'm doing this regardless." Jeremiah was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Elena deserved better than what happened to her. I'm in, all the way." Chapter 7. Scorched Earth. Austin didn't release Sidney Velez's documents immediately. Instead, he made a copy and sent it with a message through an intermediary. "Your son murdered my wife. You were going to abandon him to save your reputation. Here's proof you're as corrupt as he is. I'm giving you a choice. Fund his legal defense, and I release these. Or cut him off completely, publicly, and these stay hidden. You have 48 hours. Sidney Velez's response came through his lawyer in 36 hours. A public statement disowning Clifton completely, cutting all financial ties, and donating $5 million to domestic violence prevention programs in light of the recent tragedy. Austin kept the documents anyway. Insurance. With his father's support gone, Clifton's defense began to crumble. His expensive lawyer withdrew, citing irreconcilable differences. He was assigned a public defender, competent but overwhelmed and under-resourced. The trial date was set, 4 months after Elena's death. In the interim, Austin orchestrated the final phase. He funded a documentary filmmaker to investigate Clifton's history of abuse. 3 more women came forward with stories. None had reported at the time due to fear and intimidation. The documentary, titled The Pattern, aired on a major streaming platform 2 weeks before the trial. It detailed Clifton's escalating violence, his stalking behavior, and ended with Elena's story. Joyce Romero gave a powerful interview. So did Elena's mother, Esperanza Savage, who Austin had flown in from Florida. She described watching her daughter flee across the country, terrified but determined to rebuild. The documentary ended with Austin's face. "Elena was the strongest person I've ever known. She survived something that would break most people. She built a beautiful life. She was going to be an incredible mother. Clifton Velez took all of that because his ego couldn't accept that she didn't want him. That's not love. That's possession. That's evil." It went viral. Tens of millions of views. The court of public opinion had reached its verdict before the legal trial even began. Meanwhile, Normand and Walton executed the financial kill shot. Using the information they'd gathered, they'd identified the weakest points in Clifton's over-leveraged empire. They contacted every creditor simultaneously with documented evidence of Clifton's financial instability and suggested they call their loans. Like dominoes, the properties fell. Foreclosures, bankruptcy filings. Everything Clifton had built was liquidated to pay debts. The Cayman account disappeared overnight. Normand had transferred the money to an account they'd set up, then donated it to Elena's Women's Shelter charity under Clifton's name. "He'll know it was us," Walton said. "Good," Austin replied. "I want him to know. I want him to lie in that cell and understand that while he's awaiting trial, his entire life is being systematically destroyed." Stacy handled the psychological warfare. She had operatives send Clifton daily newspaper clippings in jail, stories about his failed businesses, about the women speaking out, about his father's betrayal, each one a reminder that the world was moving on without him and burning his legacy to ash. Chapter 8. The Trial. The trial began on a cold November morning. Austin sat in the front row every single day, wearing one of Elena's favorite colors. She'd loved deep blues, as a reminder of what had been lost. The prosecution built a devastating case. Security footage showing Clifton following Elena through the parking garage, Elena's dying declaration to the paramedics, the PI's emails proving premeditation, Joyce Romero's testimony about his history of violence, expert witnesses on stalking behavior and domestic homicide. Clifton's defense was weak, arguing that it had been an accident, that Elena had pulled away from him at the top of the stairs and fallen, that he'd panicked and fled. But the evidence contradicted everything. Multiple witnesses testified that they'd heard Elena scream, "No, Clifton, please," before the fall. On the stand, Clifton tried to appear remorseful, but his narcissism bled through. He talked about his pain, his suffering, how Elena had abandoned him. The jury's expressions grew colder with each word. Austin testified on day 7. He spoke about Elena's strength, her compassion, her joy. He talked about the baby they'd planned to name Lily. He described the nursery that now stood empty. And he looked directly at Clifton when he said, "She didn't belong to you. She never did. She was her own person, and she chose to leave you because you hurt her. Instead of respecting that choice, you killed her. You didn't just take her life. You took our daughter's life. You took my future. And you took the lives Elena would have helped as a therapist, all the people she would have counseled and healed. The damage you've done is immeasurable." The defense tried to cross-examine to suggest Austin had motive to lie, but it went nowhere. Austin's alibi was ironclad. His grief was evident. During closing arguments, the prosecutor used the documentary's title, "This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a pattern of control, abuse, and violence that ended in murder." Clifton Velez stalked Elena Stokes for months. He paid a private investigator $50,000 to track her movements. He knew she was pregnant. He knew her schedule. And he waited for her at that parking garage with the intent to confront her, and when she wouldn't submit to his demands, he pushed her down those stairs. That's not manslaughter. That's murder. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. First-degree murder. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later. Chapter 9. The Final Move. Austin didn't attend the sentencing. He'd made his appearance at the trial, said what he needed to say. Now he had one last move to make. He'd been working on it for weeks with Stacy's help, the psychological masterstroke. Clifton Velez was sentenced to life without parole, but that wasn't enough for Austin. Life in prison meant Clifton would still exist, still breathe, still think. Austin wanted more than that. He wanted Clifton's mind to break. Using contacts in the prison system that Normand had cultivated, Austin arranged for Clifton's cell assignment. A cell with a specific cellmate, Sang Taylor, serving 25 to life for voluntary manslaughter in the death of his abusive ex-girlfriend. Sang had found redemption in prison, had become an advocate for domestic violence awareness, and he despised men like Clifton Velez. Austin also arranged for certain items to reach Clifton's cell. Photos of Elena, smiling, vibrant, alive. Newspaper clippings about the women he'd abused who were now thriving. Updates on the collapse of his business empire. Letters from his father, each one colder than the last, each one reinforcing that he was alone. But the master stroke was simpler than all of that. Austin wrote Clifton a letter, just one, delivered 3 days after sentencing. Clifton, by now you've realized that your life is over, your money is gone, your father has disowned you, your business empire has collapsed. The women you thought you controlled are speaking out and healing. The world has moved on. But I want you to understand something. I did this. Every financial loss, every lawsuit, every news story, every betrayal, I orchestrated all of it. While you sat in jail thinking about your trial, I was destroying everything you'd built. You took Elena from me, so I took your entire life from you. But here's the thing you'll never understand. Elena didn't die because of her weakness. She died because of yours. You were so pathetically weak, so emotionally stunted, that you couldn't accept rejection. You couldn't handle the fact that a woman you'd abused found the strength to leave you and build something beautiful without you. She was strong. You are weak. And you'll spend every day for the rest of your life knowing that you lost everything, not because you were caught, but because you were defeated. By me. By the husband of the woman you murdered. Think about that in your cell. Think about how I outplayed you at every turn, how I systematically dismantled your life while you were powerless to stop it. Elena is at peace. Our daughter is at peace. You will never know peace again. Austin Stokes. 3 months after the sentencing, Austin received word through his prison contacts that Clifton had been placed in psychiatric observation after a breakdown. The letter had broken something fundamental in him. Combined with his cell assignment, the constant reminders of his fall, and the crushing weight of isolation, Clifton's narcissistic personality structure had collapsed in on itself. He would live, but he would never be whole again. Austin stood in the nursery for the last time. He'd donated all the baby furniture to Elena's charity. The yellow walls would be repainted. He was selling the house. Too many memories. He picked up a single item he'd kept, an ultrasound photo of Lily, his daughter who would never be born. He placed it in a frame next to Elena's photo on his desk. "We won," he said quietly to their images. "Not the way I wanted, but we won." Walton appeared in the doorway. "You ready?" "Yeah." Austin took one last look around. Meridian Strategies is officially dissolved. New name, new mission. "The Lilly Foundation," Walton said, reading from his tablet, "supporting survivors of domestic violence and funding programs to prevent domestic homicide. I like it." Austin nodded. "Every dollar from Clifton's liquidated assets, every penny from the Cayman account. It goes to helping people like Elena, people trying to escape monsters. Stacy, Normand, and Jeremiah were waiting downstairs. The team that had helped him exact perfect revenge was now going to help him build something lasting from the ashes. The first recipient, Stacy reported, is Joyce Romero. We're funding her therapy, her relocation costs, and providing her with security systems. She's going back to school, wants to be a counselor. Perfect. Austin locked the door behind them. As they drove away, he didn't look back at the house. The past was done. Elena and Lily were gone, and nothing would bring them back. But their legacy would be protection for others, and Clifton Velez would spend the rest of his life knowing he'd lost everything. The pattern was finally broken. 6 months later, the Lilly Foundation's first fundraising gala was held in Seattle's most prestigious venue. Survivors shared their stories. Mental health experts spoke about healing, and Austin stood before a room of donors and advocates, with his team beside him, and spoke about Elena. My wife survived years of abuse. She rebuilt her life brick by brick. She helped countless others do the same. Her work didn't end with her death. It's continuing through this foundation. Every life we save, every person we help escape danger, every program we fund, that's Elena's legacy. The room rose in standing ovation. Afterward, as Austin stood looking out at the Seattle skyline, Jeremiah approached. "You know he tried to appeal," the lawyer said quietly. "Clifton?" "Yeah. Claimed his trial lawyer was incompetent. The appeals court denied it, said the evidence was overwhelming regardless of representation." Austin nodded. "Good. There's something else. Sidney Velez died last week. Heart attack. With Clifton in prison, the estate is in chaos. All those illegal documents you have, with Sidney gone, there's no point keeping them hidden." Austin thought about it. Then, release them anonymously to the FBI. Let them clean up Boston. Elena would have wanted justice for everyone Sidney hurt, too. "Already done," Jeremiah said with a small smile. Austin looked at his team, the people who'd helped him achieve the impossible. They'd crossed legal lines, operated in gray areas, done things that could have destroyed them all. But they'd done it for Elena, for Lily, for justice. "Thank you," he said quietly. "All of you, for everything." Walton clasped his shoulder. "We're not just a team anymore, boss. We're family." As Austin drove home that night to his new apartment, smaller but peaceful, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Not closure. That would never come. Not happiness. That would take time. But purpose. Elena had given his life purpose. And even though she was gone, that purpose continued. Clifton Velez had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd destroyed himself. And in his destruction, Elena's strength had been revealed to the world. Her courage, her resilience, her impact. That was the victory. Not revenge, not punishment, but legacy. Elena Stokes had survived a monster, built a beautiful life, and even in death, she'd helped others escape their own monsters. Austin placed flowers on her grave, yellow roses, her favorite, and knelt in the grass. "I kept my promise," he whispered. "He paid for what he did, and now we're helping others. You're saving lives, Elena, every day." The wind rustled through the trees, and for just a moment Austin felt her presence, warm, loving, proud. He stood, wiped his eyes, and walked back to his car. There was work to do, lives to save, monsters to stop. Elena's work, now his work too. The pattern was broken, and from its ashes something better had grown.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.